What's good, folks? It's Warframe here with a new Saryn video. But this time, it's not a discussion topic, it is a build video. Yeah, the first build video of 2026, and it's Saryn. I have a problem. Shut up. If you have not seen the previous video, go check it out. It's about how Saryn got nerfed 17 times because DE could not balance her right. In that video, I had this particular build playing in the background footage, and now I've decided to release a build for it. It's a full-on poison build that harnesses the 4 powers of toxin, corrosive, viral, gas, and toxin damage. Furthermore, this is a hybrid build that is both a caster and a weapon platform, perfect for people who want to run both an ability DPS build and shoot their guns. Additionally, because the main weapon for this build is the Kuva Ogress, making the build is also pretty decent for arbitrations to get rid of those pesky drones. Because this is a hybrid build, we need to balance out a couple of things. Range for the spread, duration for the buff uptime, and strength for the damage increase. And because this is a poison build, I will be utilizing a full set of green Archon Shards to buff ability damage, increase armor strip potency, and even increase our damage over time. But first, let's understand the synergy, because this is what makes this build shine even more. My main ability damage is going to be Spores. This ability spreads and takes corrosive damage over time and strips enemy armor as it ticks up. The damage scales with your strength and the built-up spore damage that increases as it spreads. Pretty simple, right? I'll be equipping the Augment Venom Dose to grant my weapons and allies' weapons the corrosive elemental damage. This will not only buff the weapon's damage, but also increase the damage of my other ability, and Helminth. And with that, we move on to Toxic Clash, Saryn's ability, and Zata's Whisper, our Helminth. Both Toxic Clash and Zata scale with a percentage of your weapon's damage, elemental damage, crit damage, and faction damage multipliers. So adding more elemental damage with Venom Dose alongside the weapon's modded elements will further boost their damage. On top of that, the weapon in question is the Kuva Ogress. It will have the magnetic valence element, that means the bonus Kuva element, while our modded element is going to be gas. That's going to be heat and toxin combined. Adding the heat element will buff the damage of the fire patch left behind by the Nightwatch Napalm Augment mod, which is the Ogress Augment mod, while the toxin element will increase the toxin damage over time scaling of Toxic Clash. And because I have gas, which is a 6-meter AoE, and the fire patch that triggers alongside your elements, these two will trigger both Toxic Clash and Zata's Whisper. Both Zata and Toxic Clash provide an additional instance of damage to all your hits. And the Zata bubble is great for survivability, as it will create void bubbles that reflect damage back to the attackers. And because these bubbles are primed with Toxic Clash, every hit the enemy does will re-trigger Toxic Clash back at them. And because they're getting their armor stripped from corrosive and heat, and have viral primed on them from our companion, they just end up dying from pure damage over time that is multiplied because of all of our defense strips and damage vulnerability provided from viral. And because of Saryn's passive, all status effect ailments on enemies will last 25% longer, which isn't that much compared to Continuous Misery, but it's still great to have because of the limited mod space. So, now that you understand the synergy, let's take a look at how I've built this Saryn. Okay, here we are in the Simulacrum. Taking a look at the Archon Shards right now, we have 5 green shards. So 2 of them are going to be the Toxin status effect, deals 45% more damage, so double those. And then 2 of these will be gain ability damage on enemies affected by corrosive. Then the last one is going to be increase the stacks of the corrosive status effects. So this will stack it up to 13, which is not a full strip, because you don't want to full strip the enemy. Now that you know the Archon Shards, the weapon, and the abilities, let's have a look at the build. In the Arcanes, I have both Concentration for the duration increase after an ability cast. So, for example, let's see, Toxic Clash lasts for 69 seconds. Nice. If I cast an ability, you can see we get that 60% increase from Arcane Concentration. And the fastest ability we have over here is Molt. Molt not only cleanses us of status effects, but it also gives us movement speed increase. Look at that. diverts enemy fire, which is really great if you want to, you know, reposition yourself or do anything else. But in this case, I'm going to do all of that, but also use it as a catalyst to buff my next ability. So, boom. From 69, we have 96 seconds on the third ability. Pretty good. Arcane Circumvent. When you roll through enemies, you will strip 50% of their defenses, and you gain that stolen armor. This is pretty much used only against Xmas units. When you dodge through Xmas units who have Overguard, you will grant yourself Overguard. Now, this does have some line of sight requirements. So if enemies are behind a wall and you dodge through, even though you see their effects, you will not get the Overguard. You have to dodge into them or near them. So for example, we have some enemies here. Dodge through them, we get 10k Overguard. This is great for survivability. Just like that. And our strength increases are coming from Blind Rage, Umbral Vitality, and Growing Power. This is a conditional strength increase mod, which will grant us 25% when we trigger a status effect. This doesn't have to come from us, by the way. It can come from anything else. For example, our AoE effects, or even our companion. Boom. We got Growing Power. We did not touch these enemies with our abilities. This is from our companion attacking them. You can see it's re-triggering Growing Power just like that. And of course, we're also getting Archon Stretch. Because this is a negative efficiency build, we want to sustain our energy as much as possible. So that's why I'm going to be running Equilibrium here paired with Archon Stretch. Archon Stretch, as you just saw, was triggered by our companion because it's dealing electric ability damage and it's triggering the electric status effect, which ends up triggering Archon Stretch, which is some energy regen over time. And Equilibrium will convert health orbs into energy, and vice versa. On top of that, I'm using Xenoric for additional energy sustain. Besides that, I have Prime Continuity paired with Concentration for even more duration, because the less time we spend casting abilities, the less energy we spend. Think about that. Our range bonuses are coming from, of course, Archon Stretch and Overextended. Because we have Blind Rage, we can offset the strength loss from Overextended quite a bit. With all of this together, when we trigger Growing Power, we'll get 200 plus strength. And being around 200 strength is a very solid increase. And our final mod is Venom Dose. As I said earlier, this will give us the corrosive elemental damage on our weapons. You hold cast the ability to give you the buff. Without Growing Power, we have 183, just like our modded elements. When we trigger Growing Power, we have 208% of our corrosive elemental damage. This build is quite tanky. It has decent amount of survivability because not only our weapon, Overguard, our companion is also going to be part of that survivability, which will disarm enemies. I'll showcase against Xmas units, so they can't really disarm them unless they have their Overguard stripped. We also have Molt. I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, so many ways to survive. So here we go, Xmas enemy units. We put our spores, dodge through enemies, we get Overguard. We had to get the ones with the bubbles. But yeah, you can see our DOT just shreds everything here. All dead. Right, but poor Savathun died. Now let's move on to our Dragon's Breath here, which is our Kuva Ogress. Remember, Valence is going to be magnetic. If we get a 60%, even better. I'm just lazy. We have Primary Blight here to give us critical damage and multi-shot. Because we're using Saryn and we're triggering Toxic Clash on every hit, guaranteed status effect by the way, this builds up our Primary Blight. To be honest, there's really nothing else we can put here that's going to be beneficial for us. Heavy Caliber is mandatory because of the minus accuracy. This will of course spread the projectiles. So when we shoot our bullets, you can't really see them right now, but they do spread a little bit, you know. You see how they're not connected? Yeah, you see, there we go. You see? I'm using a bit darker energy colors so I don't blind myself or even teammates. And the faction damage mod, this is going to be the issue, right? You're going to have to be switching faction damage mods here and there if you want to optimize your damage. Otherwise, if you don't want to run this, run whatever else, any other utility you want. But yeah, having faction damage will further boost not only Toxic Clash, Zata's Whisper, gas damage, heat damage, and all of that. And pairing it up with Rifle Elementalist, well, that's even more damage over time, which is really solid. Firestorm, which increases the explosion radius and the fire patches. Multi-shot, very nice, because more pellets, more spread from Heavy Caliber. Nightwatch Napalm is going to be the augment mod that leaves behind the fire patch, which scales its fire DOT from fire damage mods. I'm running Wildfire here because it will give me one additional bullet in my magazine. Have a look. I remove this, 3 bullets. Ew! or bullets. Really nice. If you have a Riven that gives you more magazine and more fire damage, hey, that's already nice. And of course, Infected Clip for the Toxin element, which buffs Toxic Lash, and you combine these two, you get gas. So we have gas magnetic on our weapon, buff it with corrosive, and we're getting Toxic Lash. You get it. And lastly, the sniper ammo mutation. I know it's not a sniper, but it uses sniper ammo. Don't ask, it's Warframe. The secondary doesn't matter, use whatever you want. I just have this here. And then our melee actually matters, just a little bit, because it's going to be for movement utility. This is the Praetos. Praetos Incarnate is a vanilla OG Incarnate weapon. We have the Evolution 2 here for the sprint speed and slide, and parkour velocity. And for the Arcane, I'm using Melee Karen. When you dodge roll through enemies, you freeze them. So this pairs really well with Arcane Circumvent because you're dodge rolling through enemies, you're freezing them, applying the cold status effects, which is additional crowd control and good for your survivability. So for example here, dodge through them, you freeze them, right? It's every 2 seconds. And you can see our companion disarmed these enemies. That's even more survivability. And they're getting electrocuted, burned. This is all from the companion, by the way. No Toxic Lash, nothing out there, right? So against normal enemies that don't have Overguard, oh, they're just dead, right? And I don't even have Zata's Whisper here. Not even using Venom Dose. That's just Toxic Lash and Ogress by itself with some spores. I shot my molt. We don't look at that. But yeah, if you have everything buffed up, you can see we're pretty tanky. We have decent survivability, great crowd control. Our companion in question, this is a Hound companion. This is a Dog Sentinel hybrid. This is how I built it. And let's take a look at the build. Only requires 2 Forma, which is really nice. Repo Audit, this is for the 30-meter disarm. This unfortunately does have some line of sight issues, which is right? But don't worry, still good survivability. And we're reducing the cooldown like crazy because of Manifold Bond. We're applying so many status effects, right? You can just see this thing going off, just like pulses everywhere. And of course, Synergized Prospectus. This is what triggers the electric element to give us Archon Stretch. Guardian to boost up our shields because we're not always going to have Overguard because we're not going to be swarmed with Eximus all the time, right? So whenever you get an Eximus, you get the Overguard. When it breaks, you don't have Overguard anymore, right? Duplex Bond, it splits up, it attacks, it triggers your growing power, etc. Synth Deconstruct, this allows you to drop health orbs. Health orbs will be converted into energy because of equilibrium. And whenever you deal a melee strike, this is really nice, it gives your doggo Overguard. So additional survivability for your doggo. And the weapon is the Bato 10. We have a look here, it is modded for viral, heat, radiation, and magnetic. We're going to have Lasting Sting for the status duration and melee prowess for additional status chance. This is the best combo you can have because, again, have a look. When it applies its status effects, oh, there you go. See? It did that pulse right there. That's the disarm. Look at all these status effects right there. Pulsing like crazy. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Toxic Poison Saryn build that just makes the game even more easier than it already is. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video and learned something from it, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Seriously, a lot of questions, description. Thanks for watching. As always, a peace. Bye-bye now.